Welcome back to another Starteryou live episode. Today we've got another leadership series episode. So this is where we kind of interview founders, CEOs, and people who are not only students but also non-students who have started their own companies or in the process of doing so. And our tonight guest is still a student. She's only 20 years old. And she's in the kind of synthetic biology and computing department, and she's the founder of NevoCell. Again, I don't want to spoil too much about what she does, but she's still a student at Sorbonne University. I think she's French as well, so an international student that we have coming on. And she's going to talk about kind of how she's built the process of starting her own company still as a student, and all about being in kind of that deep tech space because she does like DNA nanopore technology, a bunch of terms that I don't even understand. So she's going to be a lot more qualified to speak on them than me. But without further ado, let me bring her on. And thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is episode number 5 of our leadership series. And I really think this is going to be a great one because this is our first one in kind of the science and biochemistry department that we have. So let me go ahead and turn it over. Okay, Nicole, we are good to go. How are you doing?
Hi, Michael. I'm doing fine. What about you?
Great, really. Thank you so much for being on. It means a lot. And I'm really excited to get into this. So we'll start off super simple, okay? So you're still in school, and you started up NevoCell. And take us back to the origin. How did this all start? What kind of birthed your interest?
Yeah, of course. So let's say even before my undergrad years, when I was in school, I've been always fascinated by molecular biology because everything that we do currently, even as we talk, they are all based on smallest molecular mechanisms that happen in our cells. So I was always fascinated by how it happens in nature, how it's encoded so perfectly. And as I advanced throughout my university years, I've discovered that we can actually modify how this works by synthetic biology. So let's say the combination of this interest made me to pursue a new intersection of biology and biocomputing, and trying to create a mechanism in which we could programmably encode the cells, our cells, by creating new DNA, because currently in the nature, all the DNAs that we have are inside the cells, so we don't have much power over it. But let's say if we were able to introduce something entirely new, designed by us, we could literally do anything that we want, a bit like in sci-fi movies, and regulate whatever process that we like.
Okay, so dumb it down for people who don't understand at all, including me, right? So people who have zero background in this, kind of describe it as you would to a 5-year-old of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So in each cell, we have a sequence that we call the DNA, and inside that DNA, you have all the information that you'd like to have to do everything that you want inside your cells, how they are created, how they replicate, how they end their life, and so on. And so what I'm trying to do is to create an artificial sequence of that same DNA. But because currently, by knowing all the genomes and proteins of all the living beings that we have nowadays, we can easily create a sequence that codes for a certain function. And so by introducing that inside the cell, we can make it, let's say, okay, this cell will divide n times, or this cell will finish its life cycle after 20 minutes. I don't know. And so that way, we create that sequence, but directly inside the cell. So for that, we are creating a complex protein platform where you can regulate it externally by light. So you have, let's say, 4 different lights that you can shine upon the cells, and they'll just create that DNA that you need inside of the cell automatically without anything else needed. And so you can just visualize how your cell or tissue or organism changes its fate over the period of time that you allocate to it.
Okay, wow. and so explain kind of NevoCell and what testing you've already done. Like, what process are you guys in right now for your company?
Yeah. So currently we are in the proof of concept design and polishing, because in NevoCell it started as a biological, let's say, component, but we recently try to integrate a new computational AI part, where we're trying to create a new AI model that could predict the sequence that researchers would like to introduce inside the cell to code for a new function, and also predict what would happen inside the cell if we introduce that sequence, because we tend to lose a lot of time in research nowadays without knowing the outcome of what we'll do experimentally. So we are currently in function of developing the two prototypes. And for the AI model, even though it was started recently, we plan on launching an alpha model by December or January, and collecting some feedbacks from students, researchers, and teams, for example, in iGEM that we know closely, and passing on to the larger generative model development by end of March or May. And for the biological proof of concept, we are also, let's say, in the middle of process, and we plan on depositing a grant, not grant, but a patent by end of October, a provisional patent to kind of secure the things that we have now, and then continuing over the year for an official patent, hopefully by December or November 2026. But yes, so for the biological part, it's like a really simplistic prototype to just see if it's even possible inside the cell, because it's not done yet anywhere in the literature or research.
And we'll talk about the patent process in a bit, but you said iGEM. You want to explain what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So iGEM stands for International Genetically Modified Machine, and it's an international competition of synthetic biology, which happens every year since, I think, 20 years. And it's where all the teams across the world can reunite with the whole symbio ecosystem, and where every team in every country, they develop from scratch a new project that will benefit the humankind in different aspects. So those different aspects are grouped under the name of villages. So we have like therapeutics, infectious diseases, bioremediation, ecosystem problems, so on, and like touching every aspect of the current humanity problems that we may encounter by proposing a new solution in synthetic biology. So the teams work over the course of a year from January till October on different aspects, not only biological, but such as promoting the project, human practices, establishing a wiki of the project, coding, and so on. And then on the end of October, we have a grand jamboree here, which was before in US, but now since 2021, I think it's in Paris, where they all reunite during that jamboree and showcase their projects. But not only we have like iGEM teams from academia, we also have startups, other competitors who are more in investor ecosystems or collaborators.
Wow.
So I'd say if you'd like to enter the symbio ecosystem, it's the biggest event that you could participate in.
And what did you join as, under academia or under a startup?
So in 2024, I joined under academia in my university team, and this year I joined under the startup ecosystem.
Nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what does your team look like? Is it just you, or how many co-founders or other people you're working with?
Yeah, so no, it's not just me. We have 3 to 4 other members in our founding team. And so 2 of them I've known since early on. It's been 3 years that we've been together in university. And so we kind of, since last year, we were kind of looking around this idea, and they encouraged me really strongly to pursue it. So they're mostly, one of them is mostly in AI part, as she's trained in programming and modeling. The other member is in chemistry, so she helps me mostly in chemical aspects of molecules. And we met recently another member during the iGEM program this April, who is also in biological sciences, but who also has a lot of experience, let's say, in founding and working with startups and so on. So she has been a valuable addition in helping us refine more of these aspects.
Like an advisor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and have you spoken to mentors? Like, how did you get the process started of, figuring out what it takes to start a company? What were the first baby steps?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So let's say the baby steps were early in this January. I first started talking with my university professors in biochemistry
Yeah.
because I needed, so let's say in biotech, you always need to evaluate if your idea can be something viable and also something that can, let's say, be of interest in the current market or in the society. Well, the first feedback was not really well because he told me that it's like not something that exists in nature to take a prototype out of it. Neither has it been done in the literature, so he didn't strongly advise me against it, but he said that there'll be a lot of technical stumbling blocks. And I also had another professor who was a co-founder of a DNA data storage company from France with another scientist and more of a business person. And he had like 5 years of experience in the startup company ecosystem. So he mostly criticized my idea from the market approach to help me to evaluate what would my market share be and who would my customers be. And after that, during the IGM program, we had a mentor from UK who was also was in biochemistry, a graduate, but also has launched a company and has worked throughout many companies as a co-founder and advisor. So over the summer 3 months, we had really valuable sessions with him to know more about the startup ecosystem, how and where and when to launch and what to look out for. I've had a couple of mentors throughout this journey.
And if you were to advise or give someone who's trying to get into your space, the first thing you should do is talk to your professors at your school and utilize those resources, right?
I'd say in biotech, yes, but to look out for academic critics because not most academics, they do not advise very strongly to jump into the startup world.
Really? They want you to work first and learn?
They tell you to get your PhD, even postdoc, and only then to see if it works out. And to be honest, it was something pretty discouraging, pretty early on. They can give really valuable advice, especially on science, but just don't, let's say, heed their words with 100% of intensity, because try something new, because today the ecosystem has shifted and it's not the same as it was 20 years ago in academia.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. I did not know that they would push you to go as far as you can in your educational journey first before actually starting out. For us, like in kind of just the ed tech space, they don't really have any advice on that. You can just kind of start whenever you want to. Sometimes they'll push you to get some really high up, like SOC Type 2 compliance when you're dealing with schools and data and stuff like that. But in reality, they don't really. There's no educational prerequisites that they look for, or the biggest thing is if you're working with other schools, then it's okay to work with those schools. If you have testimonials and use cases in other schools, then that's good enough for them. So that is unfortunate that they want you to have all of these different things for your background and all of these extra things that you need to do before you can actually start, taking that first step into building your own company. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's say, how are you kind of balancing, still being at school and starting this up? What's kind of your work day look like?
So let's say in January, when I decided to take on this adventure, I evaluated really precisely what I need to do, because with my academic workload, I have classes from 9 to 6 nearly every day, and quite hard classes in master's degree.
I can only imagine.
So I definitely need to work on the academic part to be able to, let's say, ensure my exams, also extracurricular work. But I tried to adapt my, let's say, journey to my startup. So I started choosing classes and degrees that were in biochemistry and chemical biology instead of learning other domains, because that way, from the biotech aspect, I can already develop my idea while I'm doing it at the university. Yeah. And also that way I can have access to a large network of professors who are in the field and ask for them. I've had a lot of professors to whom I spoke after the class who were interested by the idea, and we had meetings like an hour or so they could help me in different parts of the project, as they are like extreme specialists. So I'm sure that this idea is correct or not. And well, other than that, after 6 p.m., let's say I'm mostly in the business market aspect, so market research, talking with investors, collaborators, and working on my iGEM program, because in iGEM we had 2 months-long venture foundry where we had meetings every day after 6 p.m. So I've had like really late nights and early mornings, but I think if you decide to take on this journey, you have to be ready to sacrifice something.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I've actually never heard of something like that. You tailor your courses that you take to help make sure they translate to whatever you're building. Like, I didn't do that. I wish I did, now understanding that that could actually be really useful, but taking courses that directly relate to what your company is doing or what you want to do with your business. That is really smart.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard that advice. Okay, so what was kind of the moment that sparked the idea? Because obviously you transitioned your idea, right? You changed it around a little bit, or you kind of your first idea was what you're building now. How did that process go?
Yeah. So let's say the origins of this idea are from last year's iGEM team. So in iGEM competition, you have to propose projects.
Oh, that's what
and
you had the idea.
A project is chosen. Yeah, it's chosen for the team to work on. So so we were actually like learning about nanopores during like in my first year of graduate degree studies, and I was just fascinated by the aspect that, let's say, it can detect so easily each nucleotide, and because it's currently used for DNA sequencing, but so if it can just detect nucleotides so easily, can we just reverse it and use it for synthesis? And so it was something that I was very interested on, like genetically engineering cells, because before synthetic biology, my major was in oncology, genetics. So I was trying to see new therapeutic approaches for like cancer cells by re-engineering the genome. So kind of the merge of two created this project. But last year the project was accepted, but was not continued to be worked on because by our PIs it was deemed to be a bit too complex for a group of students to elaborate in several months. Yeah, so this year I took it on like in January with the same topic of just DNA synthesis. But towards June, July, I got familiarized more with DNA data storage, also the biocomputers and how they're used nowadays, like brain-computer interfaces, brain organoids. And it just clicked onto me that if we can literally just rewrite the genome, why not utilize it for something much bigger than just DNA synthesis, and to reprogram the cell entirely, including the tissue, the organs, and organism, and just introducing a new field to the domain of biology and chemistry. So I'd say this is kind of the thought process that happened.
Yeah, so shifting comes with the territory, right? Like changing up your model.
Yeah.
Some people see that as meaning you're doing something wrong, but usually that means it's just a normal part of the startup process, is changing your business model, changing what your idea was going to be, and changing your route. Yeah, I agree. We've done it probably like 6 times throughout the past year and a half. We've changed our entire model multiple times, but it's part of the process. I would not see that as a loss. And kind of how did you get these friends and your co-founders interested in what you were building? Are they entrepreneurs? Have they done stuff before? Or what kind of, how did you convince them?
So two of my friends, we knew each other like for 4 years, 3 years in university. So we had like same lectures, same domains of interest. But for me, it was more in biology, but for them more in chemistry, AI. So actually we were in the same iGEM team last year, like in 2024. So they were really, really interested by the possibility of writing DNA inside the cells. And from the earliest days, they were always like here trying to help me to in the literature research or creating like decks and so on. So I'd say this was like something that was mutual. We knew each other pretty well, and also I think knowing your co-founders pretty well in a humane and like aspect helps a lot, because in the startup journey, like having a bad co-founder is worse than not having a co-founder at all. So it's really like important to choose well who your founding team is going to be. And so this also occurred with my like latest member of our founding team when we met in iGEM. So like she reached out to me when we present our projects, and we discussed a bit more to learn about our common like interests and so on, and experience. And because she also like worked closely with several startups in biotech before student founded, so I thought it was a really valuable addition to have someone who was more familiar with the field.
Okay, totally agree with the co-founders. You really need to choose wisely. It took me a while before I came to the decision on figuring out who I wanted my co-founders to be, but I also met both in school, and I kind of played to their strengths and see what position they would be best at, and seeing how they'd be able to help us out, and also making sure that they would be people who would be okay with risking your time, your money, your effort, and going all in on something like this. Because again, you can really tell who's going to be able to be a co-founder based on their personality and based on their work ethic. It stands out. So I totally see what you're saying. And any advice for people who kind of want to get into this space? Like, if they're still a student, what are some clubs or organizations or resources that they should utilize in order to learn more about this?
Yeah. So if someone's a student and is thinking about bringing their idea like far, like a bit further than the bench, I definitely advise to like check out more. Like, let's say if it's in SynBio, I'd strongly join iGEM teams. First in the university domains, because I think many universities have iGEM teams, because there are nearly like 5,000 participants every year. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of that, and that way you can kind of take your first steps into the founding experience. Or if not, I think, let's say there are more regional solutions. For example, here in Paris, France, we have several incubators that accept like young students, entrepreneurs, or early stage researchers to come with their idea, even at an early stage, and just present by what their viewpoint would be of how it would develop, and they can get accepted, receive a certain amount of grants, which would be easy to which would be enough to help them to develop the proof of concept. So let's say there are several steps of incubators. Some are more for pre-seed, seed, some are for Series A, some for Series B.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there's always a solution. You just need to like show that you're motivated enough to pursue your idea.
Okay, and our research publications, I'm guessing they're huge in your space. Kind of what was your experience with that stuff, and how do you think students can get started in that?
Yeah. So for research, I've done my fair share of research over the years. I've worked with several teams here in France in different labs on quite different projects. So I've worked in oncology, immunology, genetics, recently more in biochemistry. And each of them were really enriching experiences and helped me to see more the gap between academia and the industry. And I think if someone's in this STEM field, the research experience is, I think, really important, like especially if you are in a graduate degree or later on. Because let's say for me, my first lab experience was kind of a shock, because we are always used to seeing something work out so perfectly in a textbook. But actually, when you come to the lab, I remember I spent 2 months on a single protocol just to adapt it to a protein that I used to learn in 5 minutes from a textbook. So
way different.
Yeah.
Way different.
Yeah. So very important. But I'd say for publications and so on, to not stress too much, because it's really a kind of a matter of luck, especially, for example, here in France. Your internships, they are either over the summer or several months during the school year. So you don't have much time to contribute to your publication, in difference to US or UK schools, where you can work alongside researchers for a year. So if you can there are many other ways to show that you're motivated than just the publication. You can, for example, apply as a guest columnist in different reviews or journals to write a short article, Or for example, in teams like iGEM, you can have opportunity to write scientific articles and publish them actually on your site, and to show that you are actually someone who brings impact. So you can find solutions.
Nice. Did you have your own newsletter or publication that you would post to, or like a journal or a blog? I mean.
Yeah, so I recently started posting a bit on Medium, and also I'm working with the drug discovery newsletter from Boston, where I'm going to actually publish soon as a guest columnist on more biochemical modification of different proteins. And we're like currently working to define the dates and so. For the publications, I don't have something yet, but we were working on a topic in our last lab, which is going to bring to a publication in a year or so. So this has been my experience.
And you mentioned internships before. How many have you had? Where were they? And how did you land those roles?
Yeah. So I think I've had 4 to 5 internships till then. So I had 2 during my undergrad, which were in. So first one was in Cordeliers Research Center here in France, and the other one Cochrane Institute. So both of them were more like applied medicine and biotranslational research, where I worked with oncology, with lung carcinomas and intestinal carcinomas, and with different models such as cell culture or mouse models. It's been quite fun. And so in my grad degree, I've completed one in Physical-Chemical Biology Institute, Biology Institute, and I'm going to work on another one for the next 6 months in the Physical-Chemical Industrial School, which is part of the Grande École of Paris. And so these ones were more in SynBio, because I worked on like introducing new genomes and structures inside the cell to regulate the cell life's duration. And how I landed them, I think I've had many peers who had like intense difficulties with landing internships. So I think 2 important things are the timing. Always reach out early. Let's say if you want to do an internship in June, just start reaching out from December, even early December.
Yep.
Or I don't know, in March, start in September. And also just directly apply to tailor your applications. Do not apply to everyone with the same thing, because it doesn't end well at all. But if you determine someone's topic was like interesting, do well your research, read some of the publications and at least the research topic on the site, and then tailor a specific mail and send direct to the PI or a couple of postdocs who are more likely to check their mails. And even don't hesitate to go see them directly, because that's how I landed my last internship. I waited for a month with several mails. She was not responding. So I went like 2 times in the rain. I like waited in front of the building. And because the labs have a secure access, like you have to go through several steps to access the lab and all. But in the end, I could get to her office, and she told me that, yeah, she actually didn't see my mail. So it was a good thing, and she accepted me. So yeah, just
going
have
in
the
person.
motivation.
Wow, you're really dedicated. Yeah, and a lot of people will just apply on different job boards, but you think sending the emails could be really helpful. Obviously, going in person if you can, if it's possible, but at least sending emails to certain people who would be on that recruitment side or who would look to bringing you on.
Yeah. All my internships I found with spontaneous applications. Like we have also some portals and forms where we can fill out, and they can reach out to us and just send, let's say, more passive applications, but always apply spontaneously to already choose a topic that really interests me, and also to address the PI more directly and get his or her attention more quickly than the old school methods of formal application.
And would you say your school helped out a lot in your career process, or it was more so other third-party things that you used? How much did your university help you?
With the internship applications?
Yeah. Were they helpful?
My university was helpful in a way that for one of my internships, I had my professor, one of the professors were giving us a lecture, and so that's how I found out about her lab, and I went to talk to her directly after class. But for more spontaneous ones, not much, because it was me who like went to apply to the labs. Also, there are labs which are in the registration of university, who are collaborators with university, and some that are not. So those that are not, it's much more difficult to access. And it has also helped me to identify my latest lab, because they published a list of researchers who were affiliated with the university who were searching for interns. So, but that was also the same, where she didn't respond for a month, so I had to go in person. So I guess she was flooded by the mails by all the students because
yeah.
It was an open source. Yeah. So yeah, but I always advise to not to wait for the university to take action and just do it yourself.
Yeah, and you're reluctant, which is really good. I'm the same way. Every time people don't answer my LinkedIn DMs or emails, I will send follow-ups for months and months and months. And yeah, if eventually that doesn't work, going in person does help. I guess if it's a company, but again, most of the people I reach out to are individuals who are, not within walking distance or driving distance. But yes, being reluctant and reaching out consistently, even if it seems like you're being annoying, it's worth it, because most of the time they just haven't seen it, or they're getting flooded with other emails and things like that. I know it sounds bad, but again, you'll be able to make it a long way if you stay consistent and continually reaching out to people. I do the exact same thing, and people literally brought it up. They said, if you didn't reach out to me again, for the third time, I wouldn't have heard it, because they get so bombarded with other people. But yeah, I totally agree with that. And how did you get yourself ready for your interviews, for your internships? Because I'm sure that process is, every single interview process is different for the different departments and majors. So for your specific one, how do you get yourself ready?
Yeah. So first things first, to always be really well informed about the topic of the lab, and because normally you can access all the info about their current projects or the past projects on their sites. So, and it's quite like a short paragraph, so very easy to read in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
After that, they usually publish either the recent most impactful articles or just all of their publications. So try to just go and skim through the abstracts, or just read the title to get a small idea of what exactly they are targeting in the lab, on what they're working on. Is it an animal model? Is it a cell? And which type of cancer is it, or which type of genetic disease it is. So that way, first thing is to really be educated scientifically on the topic.
Research.
And the other parts, I think, are quite similar to other interviews. Present yourself, what you've done in the past, and so on. And one thing that has always worked out for me was to, they usually always present, so in our lab, we work on this topic, and so on, the most recent developments that are not on the website, let's say. I always try to listen very carefully to every detail that they say, and then try to come up with questions, but just not out of the blue, naive questions, but something actually of interest about the recent results. So that way they can see that you are actually listening to them and are actually interested in working with them. And it kind of becomes like a scientific brainstorming between us. So, and that you can feel that it's going well and it ends well. So to be really engaged in what they're saying and what they're offering to work on.
Okay, and in your area, what do you think is the most important thing that the employers look for in your interview? Do you think it's your research publications or your past experiences, or what's the number one thing that they would care about in these interviews for you?
So I think it's mostly about your motivation and dedication as a student. Let's say my very first internship, naturally I had no experience before that. I didn't have any publications and so on. But so they look at, let's say, your scholar activities, such as grades, and if you've participated in other small events, because usually you can tell if the student is really interested in the topic by those aspects, if they're paying attention to it in a current basis. And she always told me, even after I finished my internships, that the thing that stood out for her was how I was really motivated in working in the field, and like you can kind of see from the face of the person when they're just talking or discussing that they're actually in the field and want to work in it. So you can show it by like small things such as, I don't know, watching videos about that field on YouTube, or attending, like there are so many free webinars online. For example, my first undergrad year, I spent my whole summer by attending those webinars by different like organizations and communities in different like countries, just online, and like it was free and I just had time, so I could attend and I learned a lot. So to broaden your horizons of what you know and what you don't know about the topic, and like just those small steps can tell a lot to the recruiter if you are someone that's just passing by and searching for an internship to just, I don't know, have
To
something
just
on your CV,
yeah.
or yeah, or
Just to
if you
fulfill it.
actually
If you actually
want to
care.
contribute. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so motivation. And obviously you have it, because if you're doing the stuff where you're showing in person up to these people and reluctantly sending 1,000 emails, obviously you're motivated and determined. So it's clear that they would mainly care about your personality and, you know, how determined you are to make a change in this industry. And yeah, I agree. It's probably the same with ours too. When you first start out, they mainly want to see if you're someone who's going to be someone who cares about impact over just some monetary value or just adding it to your CV. You're really someone who is in it for the long run and who wants to build something better than yourself or bigger than yourself. So I completely agree.
Yeah.
And right now you are raising, or what's your process with like talking to investors, and how are you going about that?
Yeah, so I would be raising like a non-dilutive funding for now, and that's through either non-dilutive angels, because we've met some who like were really like early stage and were looking out to improve themselves by like giving grant funding to some startups, and also by grants and competitions, because there are like many things like such as small competitions or just
Yeah.
pitch and so on. Yeah, events where you can present your topic and get even a small amount of like funding, which can help a lot, especially in early stage. So this is kind of our process right now, but everything kept to non because we have not incorporated yet. And I've also met with some investors who are like from EVCs and more in the dilutive side, and they were actually interested in the topic and were ready to invest. But they, for example, they told me, for example, when I incorporate and I have equity ready to give, I would be able to recontact them like to pitch again the like current vision. So also it's good to prepare in advance for the future when you get to that stage, and so you have some contacts under your hand to whom you can just text through LinkedIn, hey, like I'm back and like I'm ready now. Would you like to rediscuss? Yeah.
And grants are big in your space, I would assume. How are you going about the grant search process and trying to apply to grants and competitions?
Yeah, so I start locally, let's say in Paris or in France, to search for, because most of the incubators have small competitions within them, and like it's actually some info that can be easily accessed by, let's say, Google, to just search for the local like pitch competition and so on. Yeah, and so if not, I search internationally. Well, I start by Europe, and then I can extend more globally. But the problem with international is that most of the times they're accepting, let's say, the startups of their own region. And for example, it's in person, or you have to be incorporated or starting in that country. So it's always better to look at the local solutions before, and regional solutions before you pass to international, especially if you're like really early. And I've also had we've had like resources from a university, because we have a branch that helps like obtain an entrepreneurial diploma by giving evening classes to students free of charge who are like already registered in the course, who like have some small templates of which investors to reach out. And on that note, also the iGEM competition, because right now we are in a fast track program where we get a huge amount of resources about angel investors, like funding opportunities, grants internationally. Also help on how to write grants, how to like share equity, or just learn the basics before we contact some investor.
And what's been the most annoying part about learning all this stuff about business? Is it like the go-to-market strategy, understanding your customers, how to incorporate or get a business bank account? Like, because you have to learn all of this stuff, right? As much as you love just focusing on the
Yeah.
product, you actually have to care about running the business and coming up with a substantial model to be able to be, profitable.
Yeah.
What's been the most annoying part?
I think maybe it's been the business model, because let's say when you're in a biotech solution, for example, like my first prototype was something that was biological. So you have to brainstorm how would you create something that can get into the market and from which you can like get profit in a specific like a model, business model. And so I guess that just branched off to who the customers would be and what your prototype would be that you'd sell to them. So by looking into the business model, we actually identified a new type of product that we could launch actually into the market. And it's like more kind of a machine right now that we can to like a viable machine that we can give out to customers for them to use in the lab other than like just a model. Because also in biological development, the problem is that if you sell the protein or a cell, it can be easily replicated in the lab because you have the sequence, and so no one else would have the need to like really purchase. So you always have to protect that part of know-how and the IP to be able to just keep your startup or business on track and like have a customer base.
Yeah, patents have to be huge. How are you going about the patent search now that we're coming up to about a minute or so left? Just two last
Yeah,
questions. I want to understand the patent search and how you're going about that.
yeah. Yeah, so for patent research, the most important thing is to read like actual patents and understand how they're structured because it's not something that we learn in class or by programs.
Definitely
It's
not.
like, yeah, and it's also like something that more late stage researchers do. So it's been kind of, yeah, tricky. But
You're
I
skipping
read
right to it.
through like a lot of yeah, I read through a lot of patents, especially in my field, for example, DNA synthesis or nanopore technology. And I start by drafting of, for example, text or figures even before I have the experimental results because, well, no one knows how long the results will take. But before that, you can always start drafting of what your series is actually, and then submit a patent even sometimes on more of a conceptual results than like hardcore lab results. As long as it's a provisional patent, you submit that way. Yeah. And because it's something that will kind of expire if you do not pass to the official patent. So then you have like a year to develop your actual solution and submit an official patent. But it's been, yeah, a lot of like independent work to understand. Yeah.
And you're working with people like lawyers or a team at least just to help you with the process. And I'm sure it's a costly process.
Yeah, not currently. I've consulted some lawyers like 3 to 4 months ago before I started the process to understand if there was a necessity to submit a patent, and they advised me because I don't have much to lose by submitting a provisional one.
Yeah.
So for the cost process, actually, it's not that costly, at least here in France, and you can submit the provisional one without the need for a lawyer. And it's kind of you can just do it yourself or with some teammates or professors that you know that can like read through your draft and tell you if it's nice enough or not, and just submit it. So like also here we have something that we call the solo envelope where you can like it's a proof of say timing of your idea. It's not like proper intellectual property protection, but if there is a let's say court case over who came up with the idea first, you can like bring it up because you submit all the things that you've done, like I don't know, designs or just lab like notebook things or just molecular models, and you submit them through the portal, which is like I don't know, 20 euros, 30 euros, so not much.
Okay. Yeah,
but yeah, and then you can bring it out if there is a need and show that on this date exactly I've submitted this, so you protect your ideas that way.
So you have the provisional one, it's just like a temporary placeholder patent for now, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we thought at first, that we were going to need a patent on what we were doing. And I advise, if you ever think before you actually apply for one, consult with someone who would be able to mentor you
Hmm.
and make you understand if you need one or not, because most of the time you actually don't need one. Obviously, your space is different from every other space, but most companies, you don't really need any types of patents. Trademarks, I guess, is different, but most of the time, most companies don't need one, because we wasted money in research and thinking that we needed one almost immediately before we even had a product. It was so stupid, and that's because we didn't have the proper mentors in place telling us that we don't need one yet. But now,
Yeah.
now knowing that, I can tell people confidently, please talk to someone first, whether it's a mentor or an attorney or a lawyer or someone in the
Yeah.
space. Even professors can probably understand whether or not you would need because there's different types of patents, obviously, based on what your idea would be if you actually qualify for needing one to be protected. But yeah, now we're coming up. That's about it. I love ending it on the patent talk. And any kind of last second advice you want to give to students who want to start their own company or get into your space? Like the biggest thing that you think they should know?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing like they should decide on is to take the risk, because they will always have to take a decision either to play it like more comfortably or actually jump into the unknown, because like the water doesn't warm up the longer you wait.
Yeah,
So
get
like
started
the
now.
earlier, yeah, yeah, the earlier you jump into the unknown, like also being a student is actually a huge asset, because you are not like chained by a specific
No
because the more you progress,
responsibilities.
at least in science, yeah, the more responsibilities you have, the more certain field. But right now you are free to explore your curiosities. You have a large network of professors, peers, collaborators, like labs in academia that you can access freely and like hiring one. And just like the most important thing is to take the risk and to have the enough grit and motivation to keep going, because as you said, consistency is a very important thing, a detail. The motivation can like wear off really quickly in a couple of days, but if you have the consistency and determination, you can bring that thought in your mind that's impossible, which was so for me it just started in my, let's say, in my dorm room with a couple of papers and
Same here.
some
Yep.
notes. And yeah,
Yep.
and like most people didn't believe in me, but the more I progressed, the more I was like stubborn, the more I met people who actually believed in me. And I was told by one CEO that's like in this deep tech field that if you think that it's something that can be done, just do it, because no one else other than you knows like your brain and what vision you hold. And the more you progress, the more you can like bring your vision in front of the others.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. I mean, look, the whole point of Starteryou is starting early as possible, right? We help students, either if it's getting a job or applying to internships as early as you can, besides like waiting until later into college, just starting a company early or doing your own side hustle or a venture or some type of on your own business project, right? Just getting started as early as possible, because waiting
Yeah,
is the worst thing you could do. When you're young, you have little to no
for sure.
responsibilities. It's a perfect time to take the risks. You have all of the resources to your at your disposable at school, whether it's professors or mentors or incubators and different programs and classes. So it's literally the perfect time to take advantage of that stuff. So I couldn't agree more. All right, well, thank you really so much, Nicole. This is a great conversation. Probably one of my favorite podcasts. Just gonna say that out there. So thank you so much for taking the time. And is there anywhere they can find you besides LinkedIn?
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity, and I hope it helped, like especially early stage students to
Yep.
take the risks. And yeah, you can. We have we are going to open our website for NivoCell pretty soon to publish some of the works that we've done. Also, like LinkedIn, either my like personal profile or the company profile. And well, we have like the company email address and so on if someone would like to reach out directly, but on you can reach out pretty quickly on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions or advice to seek out.
Perfect. And I'll have all those links in the description of the video so people can check
Mm-hmm.
your LinkedIn out or your company email or your website. All right? Perfect. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much, and best of luck with your startup, okay?
Thank you. Pleasure
All
to be
right.
here, and best of luck to everyone watching. So
All right.
yeah,
Thank you again so much. Bye bye. It was great talking
thank
to you.
you. Bye. Bye.